Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. I've been waiting for this show for a number of weeks. I'm very excited about this show. For the people watching the show, I mean, you know we love bringing great entrepreneurs on the show, great scientists, great technologists. And one area that we love on the show, we love animals. I mean, everybody knows that my wife and I are passionate about dogs. We have had a number of interesting entrepreneurs on the show building great animal brands, great wellness brands. And one of the CEOs that we had on the show recently is the CEO of HappyTails Canine Wellness. And I was so impressed with the interview. I wanted to bring on the show their chief canine wellness advisor because they're doing such great work at HappyTails. It's incredible. And sort of, who is the doctor? Who's the person behind the scenes helping to put all these incredible canine nutrition products together? Well, it's Dr. Greg Sunvold. And of course, he has almost 30 years of pet food industry experience. He's been in over 500 scientific publications and global patent applications. I mean, when it comes to pet nutrition, he's the go-to guy, maybe worldwide. So, Greg, welcome to the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series.
Thank you, Andy. Very, very nice to be on your show.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you on the show. I mean, I get real excited about this, obviously, as you can tell. And what you're doing is really great. I mean, when I look at it and the type of sort of nutrition that has come about in the last 30 years for dogs, it's incredible. Maybe you could start first off, though, by pulling the lens back to 30,000 feet. Tell us about what you do at HappyTails Canine Wellness, and then we'll get into it.
Sure. Well, what we do with them is to advise them on different formulations for supplements and other products that they make. And, it's really trying to get the best nutrition into the animal because we really believe what goes in is essential to what comes out in the life of the animal, right? I mean, you are what you eat. It starts and stops with that simple fundamental truism, if you will, in the field of nutrition. That's what we do.
I love it, Dr. Greg. I think I can call you Dr. Greg or Greg through the interview, or Dr. Sunvold, whatever you prefer. But let's talk about it. You've contributed, hundreds of patents and product formulations and research articles all throughout the industry. You currently lead the sort of product research and development efforts. When I was a young man, Greg, and I'm old, I'm an old guy, I would say 50, 55 years ago, when I was really young in elementary school, we always had a big Great Dane, and the first one that we had was named Max. And I remember my father just sort of plopping the food into his bowl. And how has pet nutrition changed since, we had Max early on to now I've got Louie, my little Pomeranian? How has the whole concept of pet nutrition, dog nutrition changed over the years?
Well, it's changed a lot. It has changed a lot, like all fields of technology, right? And, it seems simple. It's just food, right? But it's not really just food. There's just all this technology that's coming into the field of nutrition, just like there is any other field. We think of computers and semiconductors and all that, but did you realize that same kind of technology is enabling discoveries in the field of nutrition as well? For example, the field of the microbiome is something that we didn't talk about that, say, even 10, 15 years ago. When I was doing my PhD, we're doing the microbiome science before we even called it that. But because of us and others that were working in this field, it was recognized how significant and potentially impactful it would be. And so the government funded a lot of stuff in the human area. And as a result, we got more interested from the pet side of things. And I would say to any young person that's entering the field of nutrition in the pet world, that, you better understand what's going in the field of the microbiome, because it's going to overshadow whatever you've been taught from a classical chemistry point of view, that we can put things into our bodies that are biological entities that help us and our organisms that live inside of us be better and stronger and healthier and more immune functioning and better resistant disease and all that. And, of all things, Andy, in the time that we've lived through COVID and everything, I mean, I think right now the consumer is more interested than they ever have been about, how do I protect myself, but how do I protect the furry friend I love, so
Yeah,
it's fun. It's fun.
It's so much fun. Of course, you obtained your PhD in nutritional sciences, and you spent almost 20 years at the EAMS company and Procter & Gamble Pet Care Group. Microbiome. Let's talk about that. You just mentioned it. Let's break that down a little bit easier. Let's say there's some people watching the show. They're not quite familiar with it. It's been a hot topic the last couple of years. Let's talk sort of a little simpler, a little kiss simple.
Yep.
To talk what the microbiome is and why it's so important for your friendly furry pet.
For sure. Well, it goes back to Hippocrates said that all life starts in the gut or something to that effect. It's like if you don't have what's going on in the gut right, you're just not going to feel right yourself. Neither is your pet. So the result is we've been looking at these different technologies in the microbiome field, and what are they really simply? I think most of your listeners probably have heard the term probiotics, right? But probiotics are a tool. They're a bacteria or a yeast that has a positive beneficial effect to you or your pet. And so there are some other things that are associated with probiotics. How do we make them grow better? There are prebiotics. They're little fibers that the probiotics like to eat. And then what do they produce that's good and beneficial? They're the postbiotics, the after effects of these probiotics. So those three kind of encompass the field of microbiome and what we do. So the microbiome describes the whole environment. And these tools, as I call them, are what make the microbiome better and more healthy. So hopefully that is enough of a breakdown for you.
Yeah, I love it so much. So let's talk about, let's say you have a dog, maybe they're having some problems. Is there a certain nutritional product that we can move them toward? How do we understand what they exactly need based on their current situation?
Right. So, I mean, I look at it this way, just like you're the best judge of your health. Are you feeling well or whatever? A pet doesn't typically speak, although a lot of us that are pet owners and lovers and pet parents, we kind of know what they're saying to us because we're around them. And so we're speaking on their behalf. And so we look at what they're doing. We look at how they're feeling. We judge what is needed. If an animal is maybe not getting up quite as quick, maybe it's got some arthritis setting in. If the stool isn't what you expect, then maybe there's something going on in the gut itself. And if the animal is feeling a bit anxious or whatever, and I see Fluffy's coming into your lap, awesome. What's his or her name?
Yeah, I brought Louie in. He's going to be part of the interview today, and we're worried about him, of course, like all animal lovers are, with his microbiome, I guess you would say. But it's very interesting what you mentioned, Dr. Sunvold or Greg, because when we think about it, I mean, he's getting a little edgy. I don't like being on camera, Lou. Go. So when we think about it, I believe there's 90 million dogs in the United States. I think there's only 70 million children. So many people love their dogs. Are dogs going to start living longer? What's the outlook? What does that look like?
Well, for sure, there's two things about aging. We all want to live longer, right? But, is it worth living if you're not feeling well or whatever? So you want that quality of life. So there are definitely things we can do on really both ends of that spectrum. There was a very famous study that was done over a dozen years ago that showed that just simply by restricting the amount of calories, we could extend the pet's life. But it didn't really show, did that pet feel better? Was it in a happier mood or whatever? And so that I think there's a lot of other technologies that come along now. We talk about give you a big bad scientific term, psychobiotics, psych of the head and biotics of the gut. So it's these things that we put into our gut that help us feel better about ourselves, maybe improve our mood, and definitely a lot of credible evidence in that area for the human. And we're applying that technology as we speak to the pet as well. So
Yeah,
I think
I love
there's
it.
a lot we can do to make them feel better and happier and just, at more at ease with their environment.
I love it, Greg. Of course, we had Athena Bulgaris on the show. She's the founder and president of HappyTails Canine Wellness. When you look at HappyTails and you look at what they're doing, tell us some of the breakthrough sort of products that they have available and what you're working on to improve the health of the furry friends that we have.
Right. So, the first thing I got to say about them is they are so focused on what's the best for the animal. It's not about what's the most money we can make with them. It's about what's the best for the animal. I think they believe, like me, the money will come. It's just a matter of we want to go out there with something, that's going to enhance the health of the pet. And so they asked me to join them in this endeavor, and I'm so pleased to do that. They're highly ethical, very focused on what's good for the pet. And so we put together some products that I think are pretty exciting. Andy, again, good health starts with the gut. So we want to get the gut right, regardless of the condition. But you, the pet owner, can tell us, well, I think my pet is not quite, as feeling as energetic as he used to be. He's maybe a little arthritic or whatever. And so, yeah, we've got a product that can help you. On the other side of it, I'm really concerned about illness and infection. And, sometimes my pet has a tummy that's off, a day or two or whatever. What can you do? And so we've got product for that as well. That, it's again trying to tune up the gut, but give a broader set of antioxidants and immune enhancing agents to that animal to help it be the most resistant and resilient to any kind of, disease it might face. So, it's trying to find products like that number one, the consumer is looking for, and number two, are actually going to fulfill a need. And, I guess, I don't know, to some like any of us as consumers, I have to trust that whoever puts that product together is doing it, in a way that is going to be good and helpful and whatever I need it for. And I'm asking you to do the same, because I've taken 30 plus years of experience now in the field of nutrition. My whole career has been dedicated not only to the field of nutrition, but to pet nutrition in particular. And it's all been about trying to understand what's the latest science, trying to wrap that together and put it together in a way that hasn't been done before. I mean, we have combined these different biotic technologies, but we've gone to the next level of putting nutraceuticals into them that are, the latest, the greatest, the most substantiated. And, at the same time, Andy, we're open to what's new and what's coming and everything. So we will not stand still. I mean, that's one thing I said to them. If we're going to do this together, I don't want to just, create a formula and 5 years later, it's the same thing. And they readily agreed that, we understand the field of nutrition is moving quickly and we want the latest for our pets. So
yeah, I love it. And in speaking, of course, to Athena, I mean, they're so about the pet. I mean, everything they do is that it puts the pet at the forefront of their products and their entire mindset. And I love it. And obviously they've connected with you and have brought you into the program. That shows the commitment that they have by bringing the best of the best in. Now, Dr. Greg, I'm interested in young veterinarians right now. Are they in their veterinarian school getting up to date on the biome? Are they getting more educated about what's happening internally than ever before? Or is it still a little lagging behind right now?
Well, look, I think veterinarians are wonderful people, and, we need what they do for sure. And just like the field of nutrition, the field of medicine is also evolving and changing or whatever. So they're getting hit with tons of information from the medical side. Most veterinarians tell me, I was lucky if I had a course in nutrition in my whole career, one course. course, I've taken multiple courses around the subject of nutrition, within the subject of nutrition, blah, blah, blah. And so I think it's that partnership that I find with veterinarians to be the best, where we can say, hey, there's this medical condition. Look, I'm a nutritionist. I want it to your animal to be in the best normal state, if you will. And so we partner together. They fix and I fulfill. I mean, we try to work together, and I think it's a great partnership. And so I think that with the field of veterinary medicine, that it's going to continue to evolve. But I think there's going to be a growing collaboration with the field of nutrition, because there's just so many different entities. And look, the consumer wants this, right? We all want to put natural substances into our body. No one is out there saying, hey, I want to buy artificial this or that, synthetic this or that. We all want to put natural substances. And that's the cool thing about the field of nutrition. We bring natural, God-given ingredients that are meant to be consumed. And we try to figure out what the right doses are, and we go from there. So.
Yeah, I love it, Greg. Of course, you're a leader in the microbiome health field. As human beings, I mean, something that's really come across the last couple of years, maybe a little bit longer, is this probiotic sort of wave that everybody's talking about now. And you mentioned it a little bit. For the casual observer watching the show that doesn't quite understand it, doesn't have a pet, how important is that probiotic sort of connection with pets? And sort of maybe you could simplify it for our viewers on the show.
Okay, so probiotics for pets, it's come a long way. There was a little tinkering that was going on, I would say, over a decade ago with probiotics. And furthermore, a lot of the pet owners were just feeding food. Okay, and I'm a nutritionist, so I'm not demeaning food, but let's face it, the two major product forms are wet canned foods or dry extruded foods. Neither of those food forms are very friendly to probiotics. They just aren't. The probiotics die when they're in there. Probiotics are living entities, right? So the cool thing about a supplement or a treat is we can change that product form into something the pet really likes, whether it's a powder topped on the food or a chew that's made for their consumption or whatever. The pet owner loves to give it because they get, they see the excitement of their pet when it has this powder on the food. It's like, wow, that's cool, and the pet really loves it. And the nice thing is we then deliver those living organisms, which otherwise wouldn't be available to the pet. Let's face it, most of us don't feed our dogs yogurt every day. So that would be one possible source. But even in yogurts, we can't tailor it to be the right, these different products we're talking about, Andy, each one of them has their own custom blend of probiotics in them. They're not the same. We don't just dump what's called a probiotic source in there. We tailor it to whatever's needed for the gut or for the mobility of the animal and so on. So I think we try to leverage the science as much as we can, and by having these different delivery forms is really enabling, and it's complementary to the base food. There are things in the food that are good and we can get from that, and we can complement that with something that isn't necessarily there. It's missing from the food. So
wow, so interesting. At HappyTails, they have the Symbiotics 5+ formulation, the holistic solution that really has the potential to give your dog, the added boost that it needs to really achieve lifelong wellness. When we think about it, Dr. Sunvold, how long does it take to formulate something like that? Like, how long before you start looking at it, putting it together, mixing it before it actually gets to market?
Well, the idea for it can be quick, but the specifics of putting that formula, that can take some time to sift through the literature, understand how these different entities would work and complement one another. For example, when I was looking at this, I thought fructooligosaccharides, that's a prebiotic. It will feed these probiotics. So let's include it there. So it's an example of a complementary ingredient, a synergy, if you will, between the two. And then we work with, a manufacturing entity that can put this together in a way that is going to have great quality. It's going to be consistent from batch to batch. and work with reputable ingredient suppliers. And really, they're the unsung heroes. I can't say enough about my friends and colleagues in the ingredient industry. That it's like anything, bad stuff in, bad stuff out, good stuff in, good stuff out. So we look for reputable ingredient suppliers that we trust, and we know that they're going to have consistent from batch to batch supply of the ingredients. And we partner with them, work with a manufacturing firm that can do this in a quality way, a consistent way. And then we analyze it just to make sure there's nothing missing, so there's a lot of analytical resources that are spent, time involved with that, and then put it in a package where it's going to maintain its quality for the length of the shelf life, so that you as a consumer are going to be pleased when you put it in front of your pet. That is our goal. So
yeah, I love it so much. Before I let you go, and again, thank you so much for cutting some time out. I know that you're a go-to guy. You speak on daises, you get invited to keynote events, you're writing research papers, you're doing all this great work. Let's talk about treats, because Louis loves his treats. All dogs love treats. What they're doing at HappyTails, it seems like a treat is more of like a wellness biscuit than an old-fashioned treat. Let's talk about that. That's super cool.
Well, hats off to Athena and Bob, at HappyTails. They are so progressive when it comes to that. They said, we can develop a treat that's going to be delightful, going to be interesting to the pet, but we don't want to just give them any old source of calories, we'll call it. We want to give them something that delights them, but is actually good for them. And, they were so humble. They asked me, all kinds of questions around what can we put in there that's really going to be good and healthy for the animal. And I in turn said, well, I've got some ideas, and at the same time, I've got some ingredient suppliers. Let's talk and put it all together. And so there's a lot of technical information that went into deciding what would help that. So whether it's antioxidants or prebiotics or omega-3s, they've enriched these treats. So they're not just treats. They're in the least, we'll call them functional treats. They're going to have some other healthful benefits for your pets. So that, it's what's really cool when you talk with them. They're not just trying to market the next tasty thing. They're trying to market the next tasty thing with a health benefit. And that's nice. That's really nice. So.
Yeah, it's super cool. And when you look into what they're doing and their ingredients, I would imagine, with your background and experience, the way you look at things and the way your mind works, when you look at HappyTails, they're using wild sockeye salmon in their ingredients, and they're using New Zealand green lip mussels and premium U.S. source beef. I would imagine that a company that really travels the globe to get the finest ingredients in your mind, from your perspective, you must really enjoy that commitment of using the highest ingredients that they can possibly get their hands on.
Yeah, well, of course. How could I not? I feel like as a technical individual, my first commitment to you as a pet owner, a pet parent is basically quality. I would never want to give you something that I didn't feel good about giving my own pet. And that's why Millie, our toy golden doodle, which we love, and she's somewhere running around here, probably laying in the sun. She likes to do that in the afternoon when it's sunny out. She gets first dibs at being treated with this stuff. That's on purpose, because I want to see what happens to her. I want to see, does she eat it well? Does her stool form the same or better than what it was before? Is there any kind of, itching and scratching that occurs after consuming it for a while? I want to look at that myself. So, again, we're trying to understand what are the best suppliers, what are the best manufacturers to put all this stuff together in a way that's going to be something that you're going to be delighted with when you feed. Not just okay, but you're going to be delighted with it. So
I love it, Dr. Greg. Thank you so much for cutting some time out today. Louis and I appreciate you. We love what you're doing, this commitment to canine nutrition and having dogs have not only a better life, but a longer life with all these wonderful ingredients and the formulations that you're putting together with the great people at HappyTails. It's incredible. And I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on the show today. Greg, this has been an honor. And thanks so much for coming on the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series.
My pleasure. Thank you, Andy.